We've made it into February, and thankfully, the sub-zero temperatures that have been plaguing Minnesota are beginning to rise. Um, that said, I am very much thinking to the regions of the United States that aren't used to this kind of weather, in particularly Texas, and I hope things get back to normal for you soon. I'm going to go out of order today, and we've been kind of doing a progressive order back through time on trips that I've been on. I kind of hit a point this week where I really needed to get out of Minnesota, and I haven't left this. I haven't left Minnesota since I went to help with derecho aid in Iowa at the end of summer last year, and that I think was the only trip where I actually left Minnesota, except for maybe I went to Wisconsin a couple times with my wife to see her family. But that was it for 2020. And after being cooped up indoors and not being able to do much outside, I finally had it and took a day or two off from work and went somewhere in the car. Wish it was the bike, but it was the car. And it reminded me of an event. I'm going to go a little bit out of order now, that really contributed to my interest in motorcycles. And it was an unexpected trip, very much like what happened this weekend. And so I belong to a fraternity, and a friend of mine who was just getting back into bikes. I had been riding for maybe a year and a half or 2 years at this point, asked if anybody would be interested in going to Milwaukee because he had found the bike he had been wanting for several years on Craigslist. And I didn't really know this particular gentleman, but I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. I'll go. And that was the beginning of a truly great friendship. We went down to Milwaukee and picked up his bike, and there was shenanigans beyond that along the way. And if you watched the video from a couple of weeks ago, talking about Yellowstone and Deadwood, the gentleman I'm referring to is my dear friend Kurt. So with that, we'll get into it, and I'll tell you a little bit about this weekend's trip. Kurt, what the hell, man? Make it stop.
Man the torpedoes.
I don't think that's supposed to do that.
Oh yeah, it's been doing that for years. My check engine light's not on though.
Oh, that big red flashing thing. It's
I'm not sure what that is. RSC, I don't even know what that is. Do we have one?
So that alarm that you just heard was a problem that he had on the vehicle that we were riding, is old Explorer Sport. I actually had one of those at 1.2, traded it in for my first Harley. And so he had some sort of sensor problem. There really wasn't an issue with the truck, but it was an adventure to say the least, having that thing go off every few minutes. I was kind of glad it was just Kurt and me, because if we would have had other friends, they would have. I'm sure they would have lost their minds. Anyway, the first stop we made was to the Wisconsin Dells. So we stopped off at this Waffle House because I found out Kurt was a big fan of waffles. And we ordered a couple of sandwiches, and they asked, do you want a full or do you want a half? And we made the mistake of saying we would like the full sandwich. The thing was about as big as our head. So we were well fed and didn't really stop for anything until supper on the way home. And unfortunately, that experience was just about the same as the waffle experience. Stopping in at Max, it was my first time ever being there. I think it's a chain. I know for sure they've got a few different shops in the Dells, but this is a place where you can get macaroni and cheese served in cast iron with all kinds of different toppings and fixings. The first time I went there, I think I got either the pulled pork, or they have one called the hangover that I think is a mix. Actually, I think it was that one that I tried. There'll be a picture of it, and you'll see why I didn't need to eat for a week after this trip to Milwaukee. So we pulled into Milwaukee, and Kurt had his trailer. We found the gentleman that was selling his bike that he was after. It happened to be a Harley Davidson Switchblade, and it's funny, actually. A couple days later in Rochester, somebody had actually offered to buy it off of Kurt, so it's highly sought after. We were lucky to find this in Milwaukee. He looked at it for a little bit, decided to buy it. We put it up on the trailer, and then we went over to the Harley Davidson Museum. And I'll put some pictures up of some of the bikes we checked out and looked at, and I'll say this was the beginning of me really going and paying attention to other bikes. Not really just because I thought Kurt's was awesome. And, I remember not only did he have a fairly rare bike, but I loved the red. And the previous owner had done a custom paint job on the cowl, so I was paying attention to that. So we got to Harley and saw one just like it in the museum, and a bunch of other bikes, different styles that I liked. And, I knew there were differences in bikes, but my experience up to this point was a 2011 Street Glide and a 2006 Sportsters, both of which I've owned. Seeing this diversity in bikes and custom builds really started a passion, and it caused me to start going to some bike shows and taking a look at the various different bikes that are out there. And it was basically those series of events, starting with the Milwaukee Museum, going into the shows, that put me in the interest of doing my own builds. And that was the beginning of the Apocalypse series, which I promise we'll get back to. And so it was a wonderful day trip, weekend trip. Fast forward to this year, everybody knows what happened on 2020, and I was remembering that trip very fondly. And I've been doing these videos. I've been playing in a band and working on a new record for Merc Vapor, which Merc Vapor Adventures, that name Merc Vapor didn't come from this vlog. It originally came from a pen name I was using for music I was composing, and I've been kind of getting back into that. So I decided that I needed a trip. I needed to get away. I've been working a lot, both in philanthropy work that I do and for work, and I just needed a small getaway. And so the plan actually was to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana, to Sweetwater and do a look at some guitars and musical instruments. And instead we went back and started in Milwaukee. Again, one of the reasons I was thinking about this original trip. Also, I had Kurt with me. We, in similar fashion as the original trip, started with some good food and went to the original Pancake House. Insane amount of breakfast food. It was good. I was hungry. It was about brunch time. I did a hearty crepe, which was amazing. We did get some bacon, and the bacon there is thick and wonderful and crispy. And Kurt had gotten an omelet, and it turns out you get a pancake with the omelet, and I think there was enough there to feed the small army. He was a trooper, got through most of the omelet. And then we went on our merry way and decided to go into Chicago, and actually headed to the Chicago Music Exchange. And the Chicago Music Exchange is kind of a mecca for anyone that is into music, guitars, drums, bass, and in my case, I'm also into synth. So I picked up a Moog Mother 32 to go with my D-Fam, and drooled over many guitars. Kind of found out that I like the Fenders, but Gibson's more of my thing. But I managed to control myself and not get out with a guitar. And then we headed down to Kurt has family land in Illinois, so we went from Chicago near where he grew up, stayed down in that area, and then made our way back up through Rockford, hit a couple Harley Davidsons along the way, and picked up some poker chips. Well, we're in Rockford, Illinois, heading back to Rochester, Minnesota. We actually have landed ourselves at the oldest Harley dealership in the United States, at Kegel Harley Davidson in Rockford, Illinois. Right now we're sitting in the diner adjacent, about to have ourselves some lunch. And one of the things I guess I forgot to mention is also in alignment with our first trip together. It was not only our breakfast that was enormous. We stopped at a local Mexican restaurant in one of the small towns for supper and ordered food and margaritas. And the margarita was as big as our head. And not that I'm complaining, it was wonderful. And the food was great too. I had fajitas, and Kurt got a sampler, and the sampler came out on 3 plates. So needless to say, this time we ended up taking some food to go and realized we would have something to eat a few days later. So all in all, wonderful trip. Had a great time, and I got to visit the oldest Harley Davidson dealer in the United States. Um, I got to see the Chicago Music Exchange and the wonderful guitars and musical equipment that they have. We stopped in at, I forget the name of the other, there was a smaller guitar shop that we stopped in Milwaukee, and I actually found a power supply that I've been looking for my pedals, and good food and good friendship all on the way. Kurt also introduced me to several musicians that are in my rotation now. A little bit of blues that I had never heard of. R.L. Burnside. I'm now jamming to him. That's some good stuff. And a few country artists actually. I won't name any of them right now because I'd have to look at my playlist, but I had a good time listening to blues and country and rock and punk and everything from Tom Morello all the way to R.L. Burnside. Good stuff. So this might have been a shorter episode than some of the others I've been putting out. I apologize. Like I said, I need to get away. It takes a long time to go through, organize, and put together a vlog based on old trips, mainly because I have to go through the pictures, kind of remind myself what happened, talk through it, and then organize them. And when you're dealing with lots of pictures instead of video footage, it takes a lot longer to splice things together. Very soon now, I will be getting back into the bike, getting out into the garage. It is beginning to warm up. I am anxious to get the build complete because I know spring will be here sooner than later. And I love my other bikes, I really do, but I'm excited to take this particular bike out for a spin. Soon it'll be warm enough again that I can go over to Andrea's house, and she's working on the tank and fenders and making sure they're painted. We're going to do some graphics on those. I have to get those in the motion. So there's no shortage of things to do on that build, and I want to make sure it gets done so I can enjoy it this year. Additionally, the plans right now are at least 3 bike trips for the season. I am planning to head into the hills with one group of friends. Later, I'm planning to go somewhere. I'm not sure where yet, with another group of friends, and then a third group of friends of mine and I are going to head into Sturgis in August. Going to actually try to get to Bike Week this year for the first time ever. So it should be a fairly good and busy summer for me. And above all that, I've still got work that I want to do here on the hobby farm. I've still got building work to do, both in buildings like chickens as well as buildings like bike builds. So keep watching. I do appreciate all of you that support me. I'm not doing any of this for money. Mostly it's for me to look back. I was lucky that I took lots of pictures on previous trips and adventures, so I can go back and enjoy them now. Part of it's for my kids, so that and for my wife, so they can see what kinds of crazy things I did in my youth as I get into my twilight. And I hope maybe I do a few things that give people some pause, get them to think, maybe learn a little bit too. So I'm hoping to give back to the community. So that said, if you have friends that might be interested in anything that I talk about, whether it's motorcycles, ham radio, or just life in general, point them my way. Click like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications that there's new content, and I will keep on keeping on and try to keep creating content weekly. I really do enjoy it. It's a labor of love, but it's not without its time commitments. So thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and remember what I always say: remember to see the beautiful things that are around you every day.